All right, now we're going to start dealing with, instead of just expressing the data in graphical ways, we're going to look at some different definitions and ways to work with the numbers. The first thing you need to realize is there's something called a parameter, and a parameter is the numbers dealing with the whole population. Only God knows those kind of answers, especially when you're dealing with huge populations. Like when they say on the news that 75% of Americans want to vote for a certain person, they're not actually interviewing every single American voter. They're using a statistics. They're not looking at a parameter, at something that's actually dealing with the whole population. The statistic estimates the population parameter based on a carefully chosen sample, and we're going to talk about choosing that sample in a later lecture. But right now what you need to know is that it's got to be random and it's got to be big enough to actually represent the whole population. So let's look at this list of test scores here. Here this is just a list of test scores, but it's not every student in every test, so it's just a representative sample. And we're going to look at some measures of central tendency with these scores, and that's a fancy name for stuff that you've already looked at before. The first thing we're going to look at is the mean. Most of the time you've heard this called the average, but its technical mathematical term is the mean, and the fancy math way to write it is the sum of all the data points divided by how many data points there are, and you write that as x bar. So if we add up all these data points, you get 842, and there are 10 of them. So our mean, or our average, is 84.2. The median is another measure of central tendency, and it's the middle. So what you have to do is list your data points out in order. So these in order from least to greatest. And then you find the middle. Well, if you look at this, the middle is here between these two because we have an even number. So what you have to do is you take the average of the two that are in the middle when you have an even number of things. So if we average these two, we get 86, and that means the median of this list of data is 86. Now the mode is the most frequent, and we don't have one of those. If there's not one, you just write that there is none. If you had a list and say we also had another score in there that was a 92, then 92 would be the most frequent because it would occur twice. The mid-range is another measure of central tendency, and it's the average of the highest and lowest values. So for us, that would be the highest value is 97 and the lowest is 61. We take the average of those two and we get 79. And that would be our mid-range. So these are some measures of central tendency: mean, median, mode, and mid-range, that you need to know how to calculate given quantitative data.